Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Coding with T. Today we're going to learn how to create a login screen design in Flutter. If you are following, you know that we are creating login Flutter application. This application can be used in any type of Flutter application which requires login and sign up functionality. And in today's tutorial, we are going to create this login screen. But in the previous tutorial, we already covered all the top listed screens. And after this design portion, we are going to jump towards its backend. So let's see what we are going to learn today. This is the splash screen. You can see on your screen with the animation. We also created the native splash screen. And after this animation, welcome screen appears. So in here, you can see it's also animating. So animation was the previous tutorial. So you can get all these tutorials. Link is in the description. Okay, when we click on this login screen, and you can see this is the login screen that we are going to design. So we will divide the screen in three portions. The first one is this image with two text, and then we have a complete form till the login button, and after that we have one text and two buttons. So we have divided this into three portions. So to get all the previous links and all the playlists, so you just have to click on the description below, and inside you will get the link to this playlist. And in here you can see we have all the tutorials related to all the elements. And if you open any of the video, just go to the descriptions, and in here you can see we have the links. This is the complete playlist link, and this is where from you can get all the resources and a complete project. So it is a codingwitht.com/Flutter Login app over here, and inside you can see this is a complete. I will drop the link to the downloadable button over here, and inside you can see these are the color codes, these are the fonts, these are the tutorials, and then we have complete list, colors.dart, images, sizes, and text.dart. So you can get all the data from here. So without wasting time, let's get started. Over Android Studio, and we are inside the project we created for our Flutter login application. For today's tutorial, the first thing we need to do is go to assets to check if we need to add an image. So we don't need to add an image because we are going to use this welcome screen image. After the images, go to logos, and in here you can see I have already added a Google logo. So once assets added, go to the lib folder, inside the source, go to the constants, and we don't need any new color. Okay, inside the image strings you can see we are going to use the same welcome screen image and also this Google logo image, so both are defined. So instead of using the strings, we will use this variable, and then we don't have to define any size. But in the text strings over here you can see in the login screen text, so you can get all these resources from codingwitht.com. So let's close the constants. Okay, now let's go to features. If you're new, you can watch the folder structure tutorial from the same playlist. In the screens, let's create a login folder and file. So you created a login folder with the login screen.dart inside it. Now inside this login screen, just import the material.dart package and create a stateless widget, which is the login screen, but we want to wrap it with a scaffold. So press Alt Enter, wrap it with a widget, name it scaffold. Okay, now again inside the container we want to make our layout scrollable, so we will again wrap this container with a widget called single child scroll view. Control Alt L to align the code. Now inside the scaffold we have single child scroll view, which is going to take a single child, not a list of children's, and it is going to make it scrollable, right? So now inside this container, let's add padding. So we will use the default size, which is t default size. Import the library. You can see it inside the constants slash sizes. After the padding, let's add a child, and as a child we will use column, because inside the column we will place all the elements as its children. Let's add the first children, which is the image. We will use asset image because we already have an image created. We will use t welcome screen image, which we already defined in the image strings. After the image, we need two text. First one is t login title. Import its library. Control D to duplicate and change this t login to t login subtitle. Now as a style, let's give it a theme. The text theme that we already created, and we will pass headline 2 or headline 1, it's up to you, and pass the body text 1 for the subtitle. Okay, now let's try to run the application. Okay, so our application is running. This is splash screen, and then we have the welcome screen. Click on this login. We know inside the screen, when the login button is clicked, we want to switch it to the login screen. So go to welcome screen.dart, and inside this outline button, let's use the getText property. You can use navigator.of_context, but I am going to use the getText property, which is get.to, and inside we will call login screen. We now click on this login button, and you can see we have one image and two text, but align in the center, and the image is too big. Let's close this, and now the first thing is we need to make sure that inside the column cross-axis alignment should be at the start. So elements should start from the left side. Let's save it, and you can see the text has been moved to the left side. Now to make this image responsive, because different devices have different screen sizes, so we will first get the size of this whole device. So using media query, with the context we can get the size. So inside this size we have other properties like height, width, aspect ratio, and bunch of other properties, but we get this size. Go to this image as height of this image, or you can also play with the width, but as a height of the image I will pass size dot height, give it only 2% of the screen, so multiply it with the 0.2. Let's save the code, and you can see the image has been shrink to the top. Okay, the first portion is completed, but in here you can see that the image is currently overlapping with our safe area with our top bar. So we will wrap this scaffold with a safe area because we don't want to go into that area. Let's save it, and you can see that now it's black. This region is not being used. Now the first block is ready. So I've added comment as section 1 and it's end here, and the section 2, now it's a form. So let's create a form. If you don't know anything about the forms, text form fields, button, and how to submit a form, I suggest you to watch the previous crash course tutorial and typically the third section of this crash course tutorial, which is completely related to forms and fields. Okay, now inside this form, as a child we are going to use, because it's again a single child, so we will use a column, place list of items. Inside this column add a children, and also to make all the elements to the left side we will simply copy this and paste the cross-axis alignment to start. As a list of children's, the first one is the outline, the first one is the text form field. Okay, now inside this text form field we will go to decoration and use input decoration. The first thing is the icon, so we will use the prefix icon. These are the material icons, but if you want to use font or some icons, we have already created the video about the icons in the same Flutter crash course, so I will drop the link in the description. You can watch that as well. So after the prefix icon we want to add a label text. Okay, as in label text we have already created the email. Okay, after the label text let's add hint text, or you can say a placeholder text, which will be same email. Okay, now let's save it, and you can see we have the logo with the email, and also the placeholder is being placed over there. So if you want to keep the same style without the border line, you can use it. But if you want to add a border, we have a border property, and as a border property we can use outlined input border. Save it, and you can see the border has been applied. Now to add a spacing inside the form, there are two ways. We can either use container with the top and bottom padding, and also we can use a size widget. So instead of creating using two widgets at the start and end of the form, we will create a single widget which is container, and inside we can use padding because we only need a vertical padding, so we will use edge_symmetric, and let's give it 20. Save it, and you can see the padding has been applied. Okay, so our first text field is ready. Now to create a second one, let's copy this, paste it again, change this t email to t password, change the icon, save it. Now we have the second text field. To add a space in here we will use size box, give it a height, t form height, the variable we have already created over here, which is 30. Also inside this container I will replace it with the t form height minus 10, which will be 20. So later on if we want to change the spacing of our form, we can simply change the value in the inside this t form height, and all the values will be updated. Okay, now let's save it, and the space is there. Okay, now to make the second field as the password field, we are going to add suffix icon, and in here we are going to use icon button. Okay, so I have added an icon button. On press is currently null, and as an icon I have used this I icon. So now we have two text fields. Again give it a space, and now we want to add the forget password, which is a text button. So add a text button, pass null here. As a child, use as a text which is a t forget password. Let's save it, and you can see it's on the currently on the left side, and also the text color you can see is currently disabled because we passed null over here. If we pass this angular brackets and save it, and you can see the color has been changed, but we want to put this button text to the right side, so we will wrap this text widget with the align property, and as its alignment we will use center right. Let's save it, and you can see it's pushed towards the center right. Control Alt L. After this button, we need to add elevated button, which will be the submit button of this form. As its child, we will use the text login, which will be the uppercase. Let's save it, and you can see the default button is the black one with a light text. Now to make this elevated button to cover the whole screen, we will again wrap it with the, and you can see the button is now displaying on the complete size, on the complete width. So in here our form is completed, but you can see it's looking a bit messy. So we will inside the form, right click, go to refactor and extract this as a Flutter widget, name it login form. So we have login form class created. Let's cut it. Inside this folder, we will create new file login form widget dot dot, and we place the login form inside here. Let's close it, import it. Login form, we can also convert or to move these image and to text in another widget. So to keep our main file as much clean as possible. And also in that case, we will not require any comments. Wrap them with a column widget, column with a cross alignment at start, and also cut these two text, paste it inside it, extract it as a Flutter widget, login header widget, refactor. Again, this class has created, cut it from here. So I also created this login header widget class, and let's just import it. So in here, because we want to extract this footer also, so let's say we want to wrap it with a widget in a column again, but this time this column will have a cross-axis alignment as a center. So as its children, let's add the text with a simple or. Let's save it, and you can see the or is there. So cross-section alignment is not in the center because at the top you can see it's in the start. So currently column is not taking the complete space, shifted towards the left side. But okay, now let's create the Google login button, which will be the outline button. On press is currently null, and as a text we will use T sign in with Google. Let's save it, and you can see it's there. But now we want to also add icon with this. Control Alt L to align, and with outline button we will write dot icon, and now as an icon we can pass the icon whatever we want to use. This icon is a widget, so it's not necessary to use the icon, but we can use the image. So we will use the asset image and go to constants. Inside the image strings, you can see we already have added the Google logo image. Let's paste it over here, and now instead of this child we can add label because there is no child for this dot icon property. Let's save this, and you can see the logo is too big, it's overlapping. So inside we can give it a width of 20. Let's save it, and you can see now it's looking nice. Also to make it cover the complete screen, we will do the same as we already done. We will wrap it with a size widget, size box, and as a width we will use double dot infinity, and you can see it's currently covering the complete screen. And also this outline button and the elevated button design has already been created. Inside the utils, go to themes, and you can see we have created elevated button theme and outline button theme along with the text theme. So these are both for the light and dark themes, so you can watch previous videos for this theme effect. Okay, in here I added a size box with the height of 10 with the which is between or and Google button, Google login button, and next to this again create some space. Let's add the last one, which is the text button. Let's save it. Okay, the text button is null with the children as a value, which is the T already have an account, so you can see it's right here. Control Alt L to align, but at the end you can see we don't have any login option. So we will wrap this text with the dot rich property, which we already learned in our Flutter crash course. Let's cut the text. We will use text span, and as a text, let's paste the first property. Let me add a constant. Inside the text span, we have a property which is the children's, and let's add another text span. This time the text will be T. Sorry, it's not T already have an account, but it's the text which is the T don't have an account because we are inside login. And as a text span, we will use T sign up. Let's save it. And you can see the both text are now connected, don't have an account, sign up. Again, here you can see you have just assigned themes, body text one for the first text, and then in the text span, simply change the text style with the color blue to T sign up. So you can see by clicking on it, it's a single button, but using a text rich, we can distribute the themes for the same text. So now the design is ready. The last thing is we can also extract this widget by right click, refactor and extract flutter widget. Name it login footer widget refactor. Cut it from here and same as for create a new file. Okay, in here I have created the login footer widget. Go back, import this library, add a constant, and that's it. So this is the design of our login screen. So now it's readable. So this is how we basically design the professional applications. We have the login folder, and now inside the main one is this login screen, and then we have its three widgets. So in the upcoming tutorial we will create the sign up, which is going to be very informative tutorial. If you are new, you can watch, and once the design is completed, we will, as at the start you see, we will switch towards our backend, which is the Firebase, and we will use sessions to store the data and bunch of other things. So if you are new, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. And if you like this video, hit the like button as well. Thank you for watching. Take care. Allah Hafiz.